Okay, can you tell us what your organization's views are vis-a-vis the current Obama administration's approach to diplomacy and reaching out to the Iranian regime and the sanctions approach that they've taken? Where do you think that's headed, and is that something that is going to ultimately work with the clerics in Iran?
Well, I think that if you look at the nuclear threat, you have to address it in a variety of ways. Diplomacy, military action, economic measures, intelligence measures. Certainly diplomacy may be a part of that, but we can't forget the need to implement coercive economic pressure, which is probably the best thing we have at our disposal in order to compel the Iranians to change their behavior. And I don't think enough is being done on that front. What we really need is not just sanctions on the oil and gas sector or just sanctions on the banking sector. We need a complete economic blockade of the Iranian regime where all commerce, all interaction is ended except for humanitarian assistance, food, and medicine. That way we can be sure that the Iranians really feel the pressure, know that we're committed, and I think it's the best option we have at our disposal to get them to change their behavior short of any kind of military action.
So this nuclear issue is pretty frightening for a lot of people since they've seen Iran sponsoring terrorism worldwide and especially in the Middle East. What can average individuals or individual groups do more vis-a-vis this nuclear issue and raising it perhaps with elected officials?
Well, I think the one thing that people have to realize now is that they have to come to realize that the more stringent sanctions that have been applied in the last year are having an effect on the Iranian economy, if not the regime. Sanctioning the central bank, EU oil embargo, and we need to be mindful of the fact that these measures implemented recently are having an effect, and we need to advocate amongst our public officials for similar, more aggressive action to ensure that we have the most comprehensive, robust sanctions in history in place on the Iranian regime. More specifically, what people can do is they can come to organizations such as ours, UnitedAgainstNuclearIran.com, and you'll see that there's a database of corporations that are actively doing business in Iran with that odious regime. And they can send messages to those corporations and support our different initiatives to get those corporations to pull out of Iran entirely and stop giving this regime the financing it needs to carry out its deadly attacks around the world.
What are some of the major companies that you guys have pressured and outreach to as far as their business with the Iranian government, in which they've pulled out, from work from Iran?
There's a whole bunch of them. I mean, some are more obscure like ABB and BCP, and some are very prominent like Bobcat, Caterpillar, KPMG, Komatsu, Porsche, Tadano, Terex, Maersk, Mazda, a lot of brand name, well-known corporations that are very familiar to most people living in the United States had business in Iran, significant business in Iran, and as a result of these pressure campaigns have been compelled to stop. So that demonstrates that these kind of tactics actually are very, very effective.